That don't excuse, them being Nazis. And, if you attack black people and Jewish people within the span of a week, then you are indeed a Nazi. Like the anti-black, anti-Semitic rhetoric, bro, you a Nazi. You don't got time for that right now.
I have a lot of great Jewish people in my corner. I have a Jewish conglomerate.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You know why there's not a lot of Jewish rappers? Because there's Jewish owners and Jewish CEOs. They run these labels. They're the bosses. That's why I'm uncomfortable.
What did Kanye say? He said, happy Kwanzaa to all the artists and
happy Hanukkah to all the label execs. It's the truth. They run the business.
Hey, what's going on, folks? Hip-hop podcast and TV personality Charlemagne the God, who recently teamed up with Stephen Colbert to push propaganda, entertain the masses, had the nerve to call Kanye West a Nazi.
Like the anti-black, anti-Semitic rhetoric, bro, you a Nazi. You don't got time for that right now.
But what Charlemagne probably doesn't want you to see is old interviews where he panicked, started sweating.
Like Jews don't go out and try to recruit people into the religion like, certain Christians and Muslims and stuff.
I'll be honest with you, I don't even feel comfortable talking about this. I'm sweating right now. There's certain things I don't like to talk about, and I love Jewish people. But they're powerful. I don't want them to misconstrue anything I'm saying or take anything I'm saying the wrong way.
And at the time said he agreed with Kanye for making a joke about music industry ownership.
I'm uncomfortable.
What did Kanye say? He said, happy Kwanzaa to all the artists and
happy Hanukkah to all the label execs. It's the truth.
Should people like Charlemagne and Ben Shapiro be trying to smear Kanye West as a Nazi propagandist?
He suggested that the underground Jewish mafia is out to get him. So first of all, we meet in the synagogue on Fridays. If we were out to get him, we would have done it already. Our space laser would have hit him. That would have been the end of but of course, all of this is absolute silliness. And there's not much more to say about it than that. I've said, again, that he is obviously an unstable human being. What he is spouting is, as I say, Der Stürmer-type anti-Semitism.
We'll talk about it and tell you the truth that most are too cowardly to admit. Show starts now.
To be a bigot, I'm sure there was a lot of Nazis with mental health issues. That don't excuse, them being Nazis. And, if you attack black people and Jewish people within the span of a week, then you are indeed a Nazi to me.
The Dream Rare Podcast, welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. It's the Dream Rare Podcast, welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Dream Rare Podcast, and today we're going to talk about Charlemagne the God, one of the biggest names in, radio broadcasting and hip-hop. He recently teamed up with Stephen Colbert to be a mainstream sellout. A more famous celebrity who would, of course, never lie. But he's literally calling Kanye West a Nazi. So I have a bunch of clips to play, but I want to say this real quick. In the hip-hop community, one of the most famous groups in hip-hop right now is called Migos, and one of them was shot and killed. His name was Takeoff, I believe. Rest in peace. But here's the thing. Something that Kanye keeps pointing out, I know Charlemagne keeps saying, oh, you hate black people, you're saying mean things about black people and Jewish people, is the fact that it's okay to sell drugs and opioids to your own people. It's okay to be a rapper and talk about black people killing black people. That's all culturally normal. And more black rappers are going to keep dying at the hands of other people until this is really addressed. So I know Charlemagne's trying to just be a liar, but I want to play this clip of Leor Cohen that's been going viral recently, who is a blank executive, one of the biggest guys in hip hop right now, and he explains how he knows that opioids are killing people, but he'll still push opioid music on people because he wants to make money. This just shows you how much they really care.
This opioid thing, man, is.
But being a crackhead wasn't cool back then. Being a crackhead wasn't cool. Now they seem like they're making it cool to be drinking lean and syrup and.
It's the most dangerous. It's the most dangerous thing that's facing our society.
So why sign an artist that would promote
that? Because I already answered that question. You weren't paying attention. She asked me talent or issues, and I said talent. but I have to. I can't give up on people.
But I'm saying that's hypocritical, though. You're saying the
it's
opioid problem's a problem.
opportunistic. Yeah. I got people to feed. I got a business to run.
You're gonna make Dame Dash take this clip and call you a culture vulture.
I got people to feed. I got a business to run. So this is the hypocrisy we want to point out. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every single thing Kanye's ever said I agree with and he's perfect. But what I am going to tell you, and I don't care if you're black or Jewish or white or Asian or if you identify as Rachel Dolezal or Whoopi Goldberg, doesn't matter to me. What's culturally acceptable shouldn't be normal. It's okay for a Jewish executive to push drugs on the entire country, know it's wrong, but make money profiting off of kids hearing that music, taking the drugs and dying. It's okay for black rappers to rap about black people killing black people, inspiring a bunch of kids to grow up on gang violence. That's all okay. You can blame white people for everything. That's fine, right? But the second that you name another word, everything disappears. So I understand that certain things could have been worded better, right? But this is the hip hop culture. And for Charlemagne the God, Charlemagne the, false prophet, to say that Kanye hates black people, that's what he was saying, he's a Nazi because he's been hating on Jews and black people, is just ridiculous. But now let's react to the clip that is surfacing of Charlemagne the God on Vlad TV, just so happens to be blank owner of a hip hop channel, which is fine. I don't care who owns what, but I'm just saying. Let's watch this clip because I doubt he even remembers or wanted this to resurface.
Black people, we don't have no power. No matter what we do, we can all click up. We don't have no organization that holds any weight. NAACP don't hold no weight. We don't have no organization that holds no weight. You can't speak bad about a Jewish person because they have organizations and they're a close-knit group of people in power who will bring you down. Same thing with gays. You can't say nothing bad about gays because they move as a unit. Black people don't have.
So nothing he really said there was wrong. There are certain people that you can't criticize in this country. I think gay people are starting to rise the ranks. They're like above criticism or any. You can only bow down on your knees and be like, I love the rainbow flag. If you dare criticize anything gay, they get mad at you. And I think the same is true with Jewish. So, here's the second part of the clip. There's other parts. He was talking about Kramer, but I cut it out because it was pretty much irrelevant. Here's some other parts. Keep in mind, this guy, Charlemagne the God, has the nerve to go on Newsweek and call Kanye West a literal Nazi. He's calling him a Nazi. This is him a couple years ago. Maybe it was 8-9 years ago. I don't know.
Like Jews don't go out and try to recruit people into the religion like certain Christians and Muslims. And stuff.
I'll be honest with you, I don't even feel comfortable talking about this. I'm sweating right now. There's certain things I don't like to talk about, and I love Jewish people, but they're powerful. I don't want them to misconstrue anything I'm saying or take anything I'm saying the wrong way. So I would much rather not even have this conversation.
Now, it feels like LeBron James shares that same sentiment. His show canceled the Kanye West episode due to quote-unquote hate speech. LeBron James has no problem calling NFL owners old white men and slave masters. That's fine. But he apologizes for sharing a quote-unquote anti-Semitic song lyrics on Instagram which said, "We've been getting that Jewish money, everything is kosher." I would consider that a compliment. It's not even a diss at all. How come LeBron James is more afraid to compliment Jewish people and talk about money than he isn't criticizing quote-unquote white people? Do you think if he would have called NFL owners old Jewish men instead of old white men, that would have went over well in the media? Of course not. He would have been on his knees apologizing. And this is the double standard, hypocrisy, and just observations hundreds of millions of people are waking up to. And just calling everybody anti-Semitic when they notice isn't going to be the best strategy for. All right, I'm keeping it 100% real. No hate in my heart, no envy or jealousy or any of that in my heart. Black athletes and celebrities and entertainers and radio personalities, they're more afraid to compliment Jewish people than they are afraid to just bash white people as a group. So they're totally fine with blaming the entire continent of Europe and anybody who descended there for literally everything in this world, but they literally start sweating and getting on their knees to apologize when they compliment a Jewish person. LeBron James literally said on his Instagram video. It's a rap lyric, getting Jewish money, everything's kosher. It's like a line. People make jokes all the time in rap lyrics. It's not even a bad thing. It's just like, yeah, I'm getting money like I'm Jewish. That's what he was saying. He apologized. He's apologizing for basically doing a positive stereotype and complimenting the Jewish community, yet he feels totally fine with just bashing it. Do you get what I'm saying? Black athletes and celebrities, and also white ones, but for this take, are more afraid to respectfully compliment Jewish people than they are to just bash down at other people. And they feel totally fine for some reason to promote culture that kills their own people. It's very weird. It's like, yeah, it's like, I like rap. There's a lot of great rap, but there's so much rap nowadays is like gang culture of killing your own race. Why is that culturally acceptable? Killing your own race over petty nothing. That's more culturally acceptable than complimenting a Jewish person. And then Charlemagne, I was going to say Charlemagne the cuck, but I want to use something nicer. Charlemagne the fraud. He's sweating bullets in this old interview, and he's being super respectful, but he's sweating because he knows what happens when you compliment the people who cut his paycheck. They'll say that it's a conspiracy theory that they're in charge or something. And I don't know, like, it's like if Leor Cohen has a high position, is that not a compliment? I'm not saying all my Jewish friends have that position, but you do. I don't know. I'm sorry. Please don't yell at me. Like they act like they're children. Here's the last clip, and then I'm going to play some others.
I have a lot of great Jewish people in my corner. I have a Jewish conglomerate.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You know why there's not a lot of Jewish rappers? Because there's Jewish owners and Jewish CEOs. They run these labels. They're the bosses. That's why I'm uncomfortable.
What did Kanye say? He said, happy Kwanzaa to all the artists and
happy Hanukkah to all the label execs. It's the truth. They run the business.
It's the truth. It's the truth. Ah, it's the truth. Please don't get mad at me. It's the truth. He looks like he has a gun pointed to his head the whole interview. He's like, oh, it's the truth. Please give me the show with Colbert. It's the truth. It's like, dude, I know that's an older interview, but this same guy, Charlemagne the fraud, has the nerve to call Kanye West a Nazi and anti-black. Oh, you hate on black people. Oh, Here's what Kanye is really trying to say. Listen, I'm not going to make excuses for everything he said and done. We're different people. He says he's envious. I'm not envious. He's been in the industry and he's married Kim Kardashian and he's had deals with Adidas. I don't. I can't tell you exactly how he's feeling, but I can only point out the hypocrisy that you're more afraid of complimenting that group than you are of hating on that group. All of society's rigged against that group, but you can't even point out statistics about that group. These athletes and celebrities have no problem pushing pharmacy pills that are killing millions of kids and pushing music that's killing their own race, but they don't even want to criticize another race that they know is in ownership positions in most of their industries, yet they want to then turn around and act like you're a Nazi for pointing that out. And Ben Shapiro's calling you that too. I mean, I can't help but notice this spectacular hypocrisy and double standards, but here's one of the main points Kanye's trying to get across, that Charlemagne's either too fake, stupid, or sold out to comprehend/share, because it's really prolific.
No one wants to understand why I got to that point, right?
You had pain.
Yeah, but no one.
Pain in your heart.
But let's say this. Undoubtedly, Jewish people have a lot of movies about that pain, and black people have a lot of movies about the pain of slavery, right? It's almost impossible to find a movie about Mansa Musa. When you go to the African History Museum in Washington, D.C., it doesn't start with the idea of Africans being kings. It starts with the idea of Africans being slaves.
So Kanye's trying to say one thing that the black and Jewish community have in common. He's trying to build a bridge, is saying we are both manipulated off of our victim mentality in our history. We need to hone in on the present moment, because if we keep using the history as a crutch, they're using that to exploit us. But the thing is, a lot of people don't want to lose that crutch because they use that crutch to their advantage to gain leverage over society. In the Lex Friedman interview, every time Kanye West said something, he would be like, that reminds me of 1930. That reminded me of 1930. Like, you're seeming very sneaky, dude. Like, you know, Kanye's clearly not trying to hurt anybody. He's not even yelling or raising his voice. And you keep projecting that it's World War II again because you refuse to have a conversation about this stuff. It's very bizarre. I mean, obviously a lot of people are seeing certain things, but when it comes to, I want to play these other clips. This is years ago during his red hat, you know, Trump rant. He was touching on a lot of these hypocrisies in black culture. He doesn't hate black people like Charlemagne says. He's not hurting black people because he questioned the George Floyd narrative. He's trying to free people from the mental enslavement of thinking that, you know, you are only black if you think in this way that's going to get you locked up, dead, or in jail. Let's take a watch because this was years ago.
What do you say to people that say you turned your back on the culture or
exactly
black people?
100%. I have turned my back on the idea of victimization mentality. We are locked up. We went from 1 and 4. We went from 1 and 4 to 1 and 3, but we always pointing at the white people. But yet, we want to spend all of our money on foreigns. We want to spend all our money on luxury as opposed to going and buying some land.
I mean, he's trying to wake his people up. You say what you want. I mean, say I wouldn't have said that word, or that word hurts my feeling, or you were angry that night and you shouldn't have been so angry. Say what you want, but to try to cover up all of these interviews and all of this dialogue as he's crazy, he's mentally ill, he hates black people, he hates all Jewish people. I mean, you're doing a disservice. I'm going to play the second part of that clip from a couple years ago.
America is for sale, and there's a lot of barren land. Disney bought a lot of it in Florida, but the culture has you focused so much on fucking somebody and pulling up in a foreign and rapping about things that could get you locked up and then saying you about prison reform. Like, it's, bro, we brainwashed out here, bro. Come on, man. This is a free man talking.
He's pointing out the hypocrisy in all these rappers that say, yo, it's the cops, it's the white people, you know, they're locking us up. And then he's like, but you're rapping about things that are going to end you up in jail. So he's like, how are you going to be against prison reform when your music is sending yourself and others into prison? One of the most famous rappers in the world, definitely part of the most famous group, perhaps the least famous member, but still very famous, Takeoff, you know, part of Migos. Migos is probably the biggest rap group of the last decade. He's dead. It wasn't, I mean, I don't know, we'll find out, but it probably wasn't a white guy and it probably wasn't a cop who did it. And this is true to most rappers getting killed, but the rap culture wants to act like it's all cops. And, you know, Kanye West is so bad for questioning the George Floyd narrative that he should have everything stripped away from him, but it's totally fine for thousands of rappers to come out here and promote murder music. In specific, black people murdering other black people music, because that's what they're literally rapping about in the songs. I'm not a prude. I like hip hop music. I'm just saying you can't have it that way and not that way. Stop being a hypocrite. You're okay with this drug dealer music. Leora Cohen is fine with rolling out opioid music, knowing it's an epidemic, knowing that his industry, the money that he's making, he's profiting off kids listening to this music, overdosing and dying. He has no problem with that. Yeah, I know it's hypocritical, but I got to make money. So why is it okay for a Jewish executive to push opioid music and black people murder music, but it's not okay for Kanye West to point out media statistics, media ownership, racial statistics, or else Ben Shapiro will akin him to a Nazi and say, oh, this conspiracy theory that Jewish people, have control in media. Yeah, Ben, you loser, fraud, you should go get your booster, Ben. Oh, I've learned a lesson now. Big pharma and big government's corrupt. Yeah, nobody knew that before. You're like the great deceiver. But, long story short, this like reframing of the narrative is so hard for certain people. I want to play this clip real quick from my buddy. I've never met him in real life, but I do like him a lot, just from... I wouldn't even say we've even spoken on a live stream, but I don't know. I call him my buddy, but I do like him. Barricade Garage. I'm acting like we're best friends just because I think his content is so relatable to me. He did this clip years ago. So if people think this is new or like anomaly, we've seen this hypocrisy for years. A lot of people are just afraid of it, and I'll tell you why in both parties in a second. But Barricade Garage made this very funny skit about the situation that Kanye West is going through and Kyrie Irving's going through and Nick Cannon went through. He made this skit years ago before all this happened. So realize, the foresight that this guy had. It's really funny and really edgy, because we all know, just like Charlamagne said, there's two groups that they really don't want you to joke about. I would say that would be the gays and Jewish people. Those are like the two, you say a joke and they'll try to ruin your whole life, but we're going to watch it anyway because comedy should be legal.
All white people are evil because of the transatlantic slave trade. The Africans that sold us to the white man are also evil. And if they are evil, then so are the Jewish people that supplied the slave ships. What I say? You gonna learn today. What?
So he's going through, I'm going to play the rest of the clip, but he's going through this white people who were involved in slavery were bad. And everyone's like, yeah. And then it's like, black people who were involved in slavery were bad. They're like, yeah. And like Jewish people who were involved in slavery were bad. They're like, no, shut up. We'll play the rest of the clip.
You do not criticize the Jewish community, but 75% of Jewish households own slaves in the South. That is the most anti-Semitic shit I've heard all day. And I just got off the phone with Ilhan Omar. But these are facts. Your facts. I will deplatform you. Remove all your videos. Suspend your GoFundMe. Decline your bank card. Unless you apologize right now. I'm sorry. Yes. Now stay in your place and put all the blame back on the white man right now.
I'm gonna play the rest of that clip, but that's true. It's like if you're a black American, they want you just to hate white people. It's like, yeah, blame white people, Trump, Republicans, whatever. But if you ever, say that other word, they'll try to ruin your life. I mean, we're watching it happen to Kanye now, but this skit was made years ago, guys.
White people are evil. It needs to be stopped. White people have funded both sides of every war since Napoleon. Even Jeffrey Epstein was white.
I mean, he nailed it. If you looked at Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein and said, white people are raping or white people are doing human trafficking, no one would care. They'd be like, even though it's not accurate, not every white person's doing human trafficking, of course, they'd be like, yeah, like white people are bad, yeah, white people. And then if you're like, oh, they were actually both Jewish, which they were, then the whole world will come crashing down on you, because it's like, and I'm not saying you should blame everybody for what Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell are doing. You shouldn't, but it's just like certain trends and certain patterns where, I don't know, it's like, I guess this is my point too with certain words. Like people are like, don't talk about the group, talk about the individual. I get what you're saying, but let's just say Democrats. That's a group. Okay, let's take race out of it for a second. Democrats are a group. If you say Democrats suck when AOC did something bad, what if I said, don't say Democrats, just say AOC. It's only her. Well, it's not really only her. It's also Nancy Pelosi. It's that group. It's not every Democrat, but it's a lot, there's a clip I should have played. I might use it for later with Jordan Peterson, where they're asking him if he believes in God. And of course he doesn't. He's like an atheist, I think, that's grifting off of Christian conservatives. Maybe he does believe in God, but instead of like answering like a normal person who believes in God or doesn't, Jordan Peterson goes, "What do you mean by do? What do you mean by we? What do you mean by," like he won't answer the question. He's saying, what do you mean by do? What do you mean by believe? Do you want to go to dinner? What do you mean by do? It's like, forget it, dude. I don't want to go to dinner with you. You know what those words mean. Of course, there's words that have different meanings, but you know exactly what those words mean. So pretending like Jordan Peterson was, I'll play that clip later. I know people are going to cry, but it's true. When he's asking, what do you mean by do? It's like asking, what do you mean by gender? You know, once there's 1,000 genders, these are words that used to mean something. Now they mean nothing. So what's the point? Do means, it's a very easy word. Do you, that's pretty easy phrasing. But the point I'm getting to is once you deconstruct language and everything, just nothing matters anymore. There's 10,000 genders. Do doesn't mean anything. What's the point of even talking and having dialogue? Because, we'll just not know what we're saying. So when it comes to certain patterns and stuff, it's like, that's why certain groups exist. It's like if Christians, control 90% of a society and they're doing Christian things and they're using their political leverage to push Christian ideology, it's okay to group in and be like, the Christians are doing that. Not all, but that is the group. So it's this weird game that they're playing where it's like, the group doesn't exist, but we need the group and we're going to use it as a shield. And of course we support our own, but sometimes, but we don't, but the group also doesn't exist because we are completely immune to criticism. And it's like, okay, whatever you got to say. But I don't want to get on too much of a rant about that. God bless you guys. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. I am going to say this before I leave and take off. Charlemagne the God called Kanye West directly a Nazi, okay? Even though he's really said a lot of the same stuff in the past and he just doesn't want to talk about it because Charlemagne the God poops his pants at the thought of, criticizing, complimenting, speaking about Jewish people in general because he knows a lot of them have power in the industries he works in, and he's a good little boy and he just wants to get on his knees and sweat and say he doesn't even notice, or he does notice, or everyone's a Nazi. Whatever, I get it. He's hanging out with Stephen Colbert. He wants money and power, so he's going to act oblivious to what Kanye's talking about when it comes to the hypocrisy. Whatever. That's fine. But it's not really fine. To call somebody a Nazi in this day and age, I mean ever, but in general, it's like, what does that do? By Charlemagne branding Kanye a Nazi, there's multiple movies about Nazis getting killed. There's many movements that say punch a Nazi, kill a Nazi. Nazis aren't even human. So if you label Kanye West a Nazi, in my opinion, you're trying to get him killed, in this day and age, especially when he's literally just trying to speak about something and not even bringing up World War II. Kanye doesn't even talk about that. But in general, it's like you're trying to get him censored, kicked off of everything. So when I see people like Shapiro and Charlemagne do that, it's like, you guys got to stop lying and be accurate in your criticism. I just want to at least put that out there where it's like, you've said that, so let's not have these double standards and hypocrisy. And the last thing that I think is really more important to me than any of this is just what actually matters in this world. Political correctness, using the words racist and anti-Semitism, I know that they're good covers for Black and Jewish people and certain things, so they don't want to give up that special cloak they have, that special privilege. If I said the word white supremacy is bad, we got to stop white supremacy, nobody would care. I'll say it right now. White supremacy is bad. We got to stop white supremacy. Woo! Black supremacy is bad. We have to stop black supremacy. Jewish supremacy is bad. We have to stop. Are you kidding me? The whole society. I've gotten messages from like blue checkmark people being like, what did you mean by that? What, like they all start coming for you. Like, what did you mean? I don't know. What did you mean by white supremacy? I mean, with Jewish supremacy, what you mean by white supremacy? What is all, oh no, you guys want that special power, but not okay, I get it. Black activists want to be able to organize via their ethnic group, but nobody else is allowed to. I see what you guys are. It's all about double standards and hypocrisy. You want to have special privileges. You want Black privilege and Jewish privilege. I understand. You talk about white privilege every day of your life. Now I'm going to talk about your privilege to have different words that can shield criticism of your group, and you'll use that group to your advantage, but then pretend like it doesn't exist when it comes time for scrutiny. I understand the games you're playing, okay? I'm not stupid. I don't owe you guys anything. Any activist or any person that I've never worked with, you get what I'm saying, God bless. But in general, the double standards are very obvious and annoying. But I want to say this when it comes to everything's racist, everything's anti-Semitic. Now those words, especially racist, sexist, xenophobe, people don't take those seriously anymore. When I see somebody in my comment section saying, you're a sexist, xenophobe, I look at them and I laugh and I'm like, you're you're dumb. You know what I'm saying? You're not even specifying what you disagree with. You're just some like scrawny loser that's like, it's like, I get it. You're pathetic. You're not smart. Leave me alone. You know, and now the word anti-Semitic is going to have that same connotation because people are willing to call it out and say, that's that. I don't want to talk about it. So, you know, you're only devaluing and whittling down these words that you want to use. And in a couple years, nobody's even going to care anymore. So, you know, really, in my opinion, we should have tough conversations about race, religion, gender, whatever, without using those words to really get to the core of what's actually happening. And this is my final take for people who are going to misconstrue it. Do I even know what's in the documentary that Kyrie Irving posted? I don't. I'm not paying $50 to watch some like Black Hebrew, you know, documentary. No offense. I'm just not doing that. I don't care enough. With that being said, you know, what's a bigger scandal? The fact that he posted an Amazon documentary that might say that I'm a bad person or whatever, or the fact that you tried to force vaccinate this guy and you kicked him and millions of nurses and doctors and Jews and Christians and Muslims and black and white. You kicked everybody out of society for not getting a synthetic mRNA injection. You guys imploded the economy. You printed $6 trillion. You gave Big Pharma a bunch of money and power and treated us like slaves, prisoners, and serfs. We're all equal in slavery for 2 years, and now you're throwing your hands up. I don't even care if Kyrie Irving's documentary was all about me and what a bad person I am specifically. What you did to Kyrie Irving and all of us is way worse than any Amazon link he's ever going to post, okay? So don't smear me as an anti-Semite or act like I agree with the documentary. I don't even know what's in it, and I'm sure there's a lot of criticisms of Christians in it from what I've heard of somebody who watched it. I don't even agree with the doc. It's just that's not as bad. Words aren't as bad as actions. Kanye's tweet and Kanye's podcast are not as bad as the fact that in the rap community, you do have a lot of black executives and Jewish executives. Yes, I know this might be a conspiracy theory to Ben Shapiro, but Jewish people have a lot of power in the music industry. It's not anti-Semitism, it's a fact. Unless Ben Shapiro thinks facts are anti-Semitism, then that's a whole different story. But the point I'm getting to is, why is it okay for an executive to push opioids on a country that is having millions of kids die from opioids? Why is that okay? Why is it okay for them to push black murder music? Why is it okay for them to push abortion? Why is it okay, you know, if abortion's too, you know, politically divisive for you, let's stick with drugs and murder music? Why is that okay? Why are millions of people dying from drugs and gang violence in this country? And that's okay, but you want to talk about a white cop for 10 years and you think you got to cancel Kanye because he talked about George Floyd. Why is that? And that's the point that Kanye is trying to make. Maybe not gracefully, maybe he's having moments where he gets too emotional, you know, for people's take, but that's more important than what you think in his podcast. So I'm tired of Charlemagne the God smearing him as a Nazi, Ben Shapiro trying to smear him as a Nazi. Sorry, Ben, but you're a fraud. You know, I'm so tired of these frauds. They want to water down the discussion so we never get to the core of what's really going on. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm not co-signing everything that everyone's ever said. I'll speak for myself and defend my own words, but when I see some of the biggest figures in left-wing and right-wing media trying to call Kanye a Nazi, but they don't want to weigh in on what they really did to us. Like Ben Shapiro's little fake apology, he's like, they lied to us. No, what Ben really needs to say is, I'm sorry. Not only did they lie to everybody, but Ben also lied to everybody and tried to bully them into getting the vaccine and calling them dopes. So your bad reporting, Ben Shapiro, probably hurt more people than Kanye West podcast ever did. They want to talk about, oh, but you know, he's inciting stuff. Well, didn't you incite millions of your listeners to go get an injection while never even telling them about the liability or the what could possibly happen? How is that any better? This is just my pet peeve in this world, is the hypocrisy. I'm not a perfect person, okay? I'm not like your hero in every sense of the word. I do news analysis. I try to be fair and accurate. And in my real life, I try to be a nice person. I'm sure I fall short sometimes, but for the most part, I think I'm pretty joyful for the most part. Maybe sometimes not. But in this world of news analysis and journalism, calling someone a Nazi when you made this many mistakes, calling someone a Nazi when you said very similar stuff 9 years ago, started sweating and said you're afraid to talk about it because you're a coward, you know, you say he can't say that Jewish people run media groups, but you have literally said worse thing about Arabs and Palestinians as a whole, and you didn't use just individuals, like, oh, just the bad Palestinians, but not the good ones, because there's a lot of good ones. Oh no, you don't. These people don't follow their own standards. And that really bothers me. And when it comes to rap music, I'm not a prude, but it's culturally acceptable to kill your own people. It's culturally acceptable to overdose on drugs. It's culturally acceptable to push some crackhead who's doing satanic rituals like live on Instagram and then just telling kids to like do cocaine when it's laced with fentanyl in a lot of cases, and millions of kids are literally dying and our life expectancy is going backwards. All that's okay, but a George Floyd podcast and Kanye criticizing Jews in the same way that people criticize white people as a whole every single day. And this is where I differ real quick before I end it. This is where I differ from most podcasters. I'm done. Like Jesse Lee Peterson, I'm not saying he's like my hero or anything, but he always says, I'm black, I grew up on a plantation, there's no such thing as racism. People think that's crazy or mean, but what he's trying to say is there's good and evil, there's right and wrong, and there's true and false. If you can't say why it's good, or, Ben Shapiro says it's anti-Semitic, Nazi propaganda to say that Jewish people control a lot of media organizations. No, it's not. Also, that's true, Ben. So what are you trying to say? You're trying to cover up the truth with these labels because you can't have a conversation about it. So a true intellectual will put these words down, racist, sexist, xenophobic, anti-Semitic, climate denial, and have these discussions and prove their point without using those words. Point out the evil in what Kanye is saying. Point out the wrong in what Kanye is doing, but stop trying to cover the whole thing under the rug and falsely smear the whole thing because it's not right, it's not true, and political correctness doesn't save lives. Calling everything racist and anti-Semitic doesn't help anybody. And the same perpetrators that lied about the lockdown, the campaign, the same people that were on the wrong side of history on a lot of different topics, all of a sudden they want to turn around and act like they're Rosa Parks or the MLK of Jewish people, and we're not buying it. So, you could lie to people, you could keep deceiving, but it's not helping anybody. And, that's my take on this. And stop acting like it's culturally acceptable to kill your own people and push drugs on our people when drugs are killing everybody. It's not cool. And these record labels just keep signing people that they know are going to influence young kids to do these drugs. Watch out for any sort of powder or pills, guys, not to be a prude, but fentanyl is killing millions of people. Fentanyl is laced in a lot of the cocaine. I believe that's how Mac Miller died. The Angels pitcher died. A lot of people are dying from fentanyl. So even if you like doing certain stuff, I'm not promoting it. Stay away from buying stuff, guys. Really, if you care about your life, get away from this stuff, okay? Because these people running the labels, they don't care how many kids die. They're going to keep exploiting and making money off all of us. So God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. And on a final note, we can't play the victim. White people can't play the victim. Black people can't play the victim. Jewish people, Asian, whatever you are. At the end of the day, if anything happens to me or you or others, we have to take self-accountability and have self-awareness. If somebody tricked your racial group, you have to figure out why you're so easy to get tricked. You know what I'm saying? If somebody exploited your racial group, whether it be that to that or that to that, you got to figure out why you let them exploit you. Right now, I don't feel like a victim. I know a lot of white people be like, oh my God, why are people getting fooled? Why is everybody so afraid? Kanye's trying to show you reality and pull the curtain back real quick, and Charlemagne the God is trying to cover it all up. You can't even blame Jewish executives when you have so many black people that are selling their own people out. And that's exactly what Malcolm X used to talk about all the time. He used to be like, listen, these liberals are the most deceitful. But he's like, they're like, what about black people? And he's like, they're working for the liberals. They're working for these organizations, and they're basically pushing the message that's going to kill our own people happily. So we all have to step up as the human race, as American citizens, but we can't get that way with censorship. And I'll tell you another thing real quick before I leave. I'm keeping this under 40 minutes. In the right wing, you have to understand that this stuff is taboo because a lot of the money coming into the right wing just happens to be from a certain group of people that pays for a lot of influence, and then they pass speech laws. So in America, I don't know any other country that it's illegal to boycott a country. You can boycott the United States of America. You could boycott Chinese companies. You could boycott, I don't know, Saudi Arabia. But you can't boycott Israel on certain college campuses. You can't boycott Israeli companies because Republicans are passing speech laws for Israel. And people say to me, why do you want to boycott Israel? I don't. I work with companies that I like. I don't boycott Israel. But isn't it weird in the United States of America that you're allowed to boycott your own country, but not another country? That should tell everybody what they need to know about who's really controlling the situation here. And if you say that, they'll call you an anti-Semite. I'm not saying anything. I have no hate in my heart for Israelis or Israel or Jewish people. I'm just saying that country controls our country, and that's the truth. There's laws in Israel that say that you can't be a dual citizen in order to serve in the Knesset, but in America, there's hundreds of dual citizens serving at high-level positions, and you're actually wrong for questioning it. So in Israel, you have to give up your American citizenship or your Russian citizenship or wherever to serve in the government. In America, you can keep both citizenships. I mean, it's a lot of people are dual citizens to Israel. Dr. Oz is a dual citizen to Turkey. And I don't hate Dr. Oz, but it's like, how come that's their rule? And in there, you have to give it up. But in my own country, I'm not even free to speak about another country. I'm not even free to speak about another group. I mean, I am, though, because I don't care what people think. But if I were a coward, it's like, oh, I can't talk about this event, that event, whatever. You know, in rap culture, I'll just say the truth because I love people and I don't want anybody to get hurt. In major black cities, the number one killer of people when it comes to gun violence is black people killing black people. I'm not making, oh, well, don't name the individual. I'm just saying if this culture, this rap and hip hop culture wants to cancel Kanye West, wants to push all this drug music on all the kids, you know, wants to push this murder music, and then rappers keep dropping like flies, you know, in the black community at the hands mostly of other black people, not cops or just like random Trump supporters in Chicago, you know, at a certain point, how long is everybody going to lie to themselves? I'm not saying this to be edgy. I'm not saying this to hurt people. I'm saying this because I think it's disgusting that a 13-year-old black girl could get killed in the middle of Chicago and nobody cares because a white person or a cop didn't do it. And then every other week when a rapper gets killed in the city, you know, over some stupid argument, you know, now all of a sudden everybody's so sad, but nobody wants to talk about the elephant in the room. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but it's like, how long can the culture lie to themselves? Why are you wired to think that it's okay to promote the death of your own people and ignore the death of your own people if it comes at you know, if it doesn't come at the right social or political angle? That means you don't like your own people. And here's a rude awakening that's going on, is that's what's going on in these cities. You don't have this unity. This unity is on the football fields because they have the big owners pushing it. The unity is on your jersey when you write a bunch of slogans, but in the streets, there isn't unity, you know? So if you want there to be unity, we need to really talk about it and preach unity of your own people. It's like, all this, oh, we get along, we support our own, it's all for the rich people and it's all for, you know, the television. But in these communities, people are not supporting their own. People are not unified and they're going after other racial, they're going after themselves on a daily basis and killing innocent kids all the time. And nobody wants to talk about it because it doesn't have a white or a cop next to it. And then it's like you can do all of that stuff and say white people, white people, white people all the time. I'm not complaining. I'm not crying, oh my gosh, white people. I don't care what you say. You could blame every white person for slavery, every white person for this. It doesn't matter. But then if those same people jump around and say, oh my gosh, you can't do this, you can't have the same scrutiny on the Jewish community, which absolutely has massive power in almost every industry, that's not hate speech. I find it impressive. And, you know, but most people are even afraid to compliment them because even noticing patterns is like a hate speech offense, and they're passing more and more laws to try to make it into legislation. In certain countries in the world, anti-Semitism is a chargeable offense. So if you question history in certain parts of the world, they will throw you in prison. This is a free speech crisis. You could say George Washington was black, George Washington was a rapist, he's a hero, he's this, he's that, he killed 1 trillion people. You could say whatever you want about George Washington and nobody's going to throw you in prison. But in countries around the world, you will be sitting and rotting in prison if you question the Jewish community. That's a free speech crisis. And then they'll turn around and say, you're this, I'm not anything. I'm just someone that if you can't even say something about it. That's what's happening in this country, in the world. It's happening all over the place. And that window's getting smaller, 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 smaller. So for Kanye to come out and say something about it is a massive heroic event, because, you know, here's how they'll get you. And I'm really going to end on this note. If you can't say one thing, you can't say anything. If they could censor Alex Jones, they could censor you. If they can lock you down for 15 days, they can lock you down for a year. So this is the whole principle. Before they call me a racist, sexist, anti-Semite, this and that, you don't even know my true intentions. These are my true intentions. Once they can do this, they can do that. Once that group can't peacefully protest, you can't peacefully protest. It's so obvious. So when these sleazeballs like Ben Shapiro call everything Nazi and anti-Semite, he's actually controlled opposition working for the censors. I'm not saying literally, but I'm just saying metaphorically, he's the right hand slapping you as the left hand slapping you. In order to stop all this censorship, you can't use the words of the censor. You have to have real dialogue and conversations and not wipe somebody off as a World War II oppressor when they're literally trying to communicate why is their race getting aborted. I mean, say what you want, but this is what Kanye is upset about. He's like, 20 million of my people are getting aborted. You know, my culture is killing each other. I'm not even saying it's your fault. I'm just saying you are profiting off of it, and I want to know why. Oh, don't talk about that. Don't talk about that. It's not going to help anything. And I hope the Jewish community, the right-wing community, the black community, like LeBron James, who says hate speech isn't free speech. I hope you understand, LeBron James, once they could take away one opinion and call it hate speech, eventually your opinion is going to be hate speech, okay? So if you're a principled First Amendment advocate, they will call you every name under the sun, call you a climate denier and everything. It's absolutely ridiculous. And if there's anything the last year has taught us, the lockdown and the medical misinformation and all this, they're not going to enforce free speech accurately or hate speech accurately. We've lived through an Orwellian 1984 masterclass, and they've proven that most of the stuff that they're going to cover up, whether it be a lab leak theory or criticism of the efficacy of the COVID vaccines, they've already proven that they're going to use their censorship for big tech, big government, and big pharma. And they're going to consider the truth hate speech in some sort of form. So we've lived through an Orwellian masterclass of lockdowns and speech censorship. If you're still using the words, oh, well, that's anti-Semitic. Oh, well, that's racist. Oh, well, that's a conspiracy theory. Oh, he's a bad person. He's a Nazi. If you're still talking like that to quash people's discussion, you are the sneaky hand of the censors, because what we really need is an absolutist free speech movement where it's like, listen, I understand threats and really bad stuff can be condemned and we could talk about it, but we can't just be removing people's schools. I mean, they're trying to beat down on Kanye so hard, they're getting rid of his Donda school, guys. Donda school is for a bunch of kids and athletes who are going to go on to play pro sports. They're hurting dozens of kids because of what Kanye said. These people are ruthless. They're putting on a masterclass and it's showing you exactly who they are and exactly how little they care about anything, you know? And it's not to blame all people. That's not what I'm doing. But I mean, could they have possibly shown you a window into what's really going on any more than this last couple weeks? Like, how cruel and ruthless is it to literally take down a school where kids go to school and play sports? They're kicking them out of basketball tournaments. Now these kids who are trying to go pro have nowhere to play. It's insane. And Jaylen Brown from the Boston Celtics is like, oh, I'm against this. Yeah, you're not against crap, Jaylen Brown, because you said, oh, Kanye's anti-Semitic. I'm going to leave Donda. And then they canceled the school. And then you're like, why did they cancel the school? They canceled the school, Jaylen Brown, because of a bunch of cowards like you. When Kanye West comes out, everybody runs away. Then they take everything. And then you guys cry, oh, why'd they take away the school? I mean, why wouldn't they take away the school? You can't even stand next to Kanye West. So why would, if you can't be the change that you want to see in the world and stand next to your man, why would anyone else stand next to their man? They're doing what you did. So it's like the hypocrisy and the cowardice I see is just absolutely ridiculous. And I'm really, I apologize for fake ending on a few notes, but I'm rewiring the conversation. I don't think hate and violence is bad in any sense of the word for any people. I never think you should blame the entirety of a group for what some are doing, but I do also think it's okay to notice trends and talk about it to get to the tough truths. And I will say this as well. When you notice, like when I say Republicans suck and, you know, like this, you know, Trump didn't do this or whatever, and Republicans suck, here's the thing. the Republicans who know Republicans, I'm actually a registered Republican. The Republicans who know the Republicans suck, they look at me and they say, oh, I like this guy. He's calling out the Republicans. And then the Republicans who suck are the ones who look at me and say, oh my gosh, it's not all of us. It's not all of us. But they're the ones who it really is. Because the Republicans who know that a lot of Republicans are deceiving them are happy that I finally said something about it. So I feel like it's the same thing with a lot of these groups. If you talk to a black person about crime in inner cities and what's going on, they're not going to throw their hands up and say, oh my gosh, you mean me? They're going to be like, no, I get what you're saying. I see it. And same with the Jewish community. Sorry, but the ones that are freaking out the hardest, it's like you're not doing yourself any favor. I have a bunch of Jewish friends. I mean, Roseanne was like, I don't agree with everything he said, but I get what he's saying. I have Jewish friends who are like, yeah, no, I get what he's saying. I have dozens of thousands of Jewish supporters who are like, you know, I see what he's saying, although I don't it's like the ones that are honest will be like, yeah, I get it, but I'm not fully on board, but I get it. And then the ones who are projecting, the ones like, it's not all of us, it's not all of us. Like, it is you, Ben Shapiro. You are a sneak. You are a liar. It's not every Jewish person, but it is you. You know, my Jewish friends who are way more honest than Ben Shapiro. Look at Roseanne's take. She felt that some words were anti-Semitic, but she didn't write the whole thing off as Nazi propaganda. She said, no, he's making a lot of valid points and he's trying to break through for humanity. She had a very beautiful thing to say about Kanye. I mean, I don't want people to fully agree with everything I think, but you can't just sweep everything under the rug all the time. It's such a annoying tactic, but we're rewiring and reframing the conversation, okay? And I'm framing it as this, and then I'm clicking the end stream button. We got locked in our houses in America, in Israel, in China, in probably even Russia. I have no idea though. South America, you know, Central America, the whole world was basically united in imprisonment because they locked us down, moved the goalpost 50 times, funded Big Pharma, gave them a liability shield, used it basically to hold over our head like they held us for ransom, bullying us into getting it. People like Ben Shapiro called us a dope. People like Fauci called us conspiracy theorists. They pushed this data that didn't hold up to time. Trump was in on it too. Operation Warp Speed with his pharma friends. Nobody wants to admit it, but it's true. We got oppressed for 2 years in reality, okay? All of us. You kicked out Kyrie Irving for 1.5 years out of his job, or a year. And now you want to turn around and act like a podcast is the craziest thing that's happened in the last 2 years. It's so disingenuous. No, you imploding the economy. So now everybody, whether you're black, Jewish, white, Asian, whatever you want to identify as, Rachel Dolezal, you're paying 30% more. And that really adds up. You know, I'm doing pretty well. I'm not in the lower percentile because I've, you know, accumulated a lot over the years. I'm even struggling. It's not like I can't eat anything, I'm fine, but I'm just saying, like, everything's 30% more and I'm not making 30% more. I'm making even less because Facebook and all them make it harder to even monetize. So it's like people are suffering. Everybody can unite on certain things that are happening: the economic implosion, the forced vaccination, the forced masking. Whether you were a Jewish kid, a black kid, or a white kid, if you were in a mask, you know, your race or religion doesn't really matter. You're probably mentally suffering as well. So this is the conversation we're having, and I'm not going to listen to Charlemagne the fraud, who barely, you know, seems to have that much of a problem as much as he had with what Kanye said, with the fact that they're pushing black murder music to murder their own race, and that's totally fine. They're knowingly, in the executives, pushing opioid music, knowing that opioids are killing millions of people. They know it's selfish, but they just want to eat. They just want to, you know, profit and make money off of, I guess, the dead bodies of children who are overdosing because they're making it culturally cool. They have the power to change society. When you put out a message like, if you're a woman and you say feminism ruined my life, here's what it's like to be a homemaker, and here's what it's like to work out, and somebody loses 100 pounds and they become more strong, you change their life. I'm not even a workout channel, but I've had people say Anomaly, people that hate me now and don't even watch me, but they're like, you made me lose 100 pounds. Oh yeah, you hate my channel so much, you're welcome. You can thank me in a couple years when you realize I was right. But it's like, I've had hundreds of people be like, I've lost weight. You are, you know, we have influence. It's a beautiful thing. We have the ability to, and you're using influence that's a million times bigger than mine, and you're pushing opioids onto a country that's struggling with opioids. Our country is sold out to big pharma, from vaccines to pills. Our country's pilled out of our mind. The food is terrible. You know, I'm not trying to be a buzzkill, but half these Halloween candies aren't even allowed in Europe because they're, not gonna say literally poisoning, but weakening our bodies with these ingredients that are known to cause damage, and they've outlawed them in other countries. We're getting absolutely bamboozled in this country because our country's sold out to people that don't give a crap about our people. You know, that's what's going on. So whichever way you flip it, we got a bunch of sellouts in the left wing and right wing who don't seem to care about these core issues. So we're reframing the narrative, okay? If ever I get to talk to Piers Morgan or any of these people, I'll be respectful to you as long as you're respectful to me. You're not going to talk to me like you're my father. You're not going to talk to me like you're God. You're Piers Morgan. You're nothing. You don't have a great impact. You haven't done what I've done. What do you do? What war have you sold for BBC or CNN? You know, what gun control agenda have you sold to take away our Second Amendment? You're not going to talk down to me. Neither is any music executive or any. It's like, I'll have a conversation and be friendly and polite and God bless you and appreciate, but you're not going to talk to me like you have some sort of moral high ground when you're selling opioids to kids and murder music to Black America, and you know, drug addictions are leaking into all communities and people's kids are dying. So that's the new narrative. You push lockdowns, you're not better than me. You push forced vaccination and forced masking, you're not more moral than Kanye West. You know, his podcast, even the most egregious part of the tweet that he sent, never will hurt as many people as what you guys did, okay? So that's the reframing of the narrative. Kyrie Irving, was the documentary he posted true? I have no idea. Let's just assume, and I say I watched the documentary, I can't stand it, I find that it's mostly untrue. Still, I don't even care if it's about me, and it says, Anomaly sucks, and that's the whole documentary for 3 hours. He still didn't do as much damage as you guys did with all of your corrupt lockdown scams and you know, hurting of the children and stuff. So I don't understand why people give these people the moral high ground. They don't have it. So that's a new narrative. And to Charlemagne the God, not a god, just a Colbert friend, you know, you know the truth. You know what he's talking about. He's trying to renegotiate contracts and hold that ethnic group accountable, because that group that's in charge of that industry, although it's not everybody, they have no problem killing your people. So, you know, whether your people is Black or American or whatever you want to say, that's what's going on. I understand that everybody's message doesn't resonate the most, but that's the gist of the message. He's trying to say, why is it okay for you to do that to my people, but I'm not allowed to even speak about your people? Even if I mess up, even if I say something hateful, is it not hateful that you're pushing abortion and 50% of my people dying? Is it not hateful that you're pushing murder music and talking about, you know, sex out of wedlock and pushing that on my community? It's breaking up the families and it's destroying my community. Is that not equivalent to what I'm doing? You know, he's asking for equality and he's losing his bank account and Apple Music, you know, playlists, which is everything you need to know. So that's the new framing of the narrative, because, you know, in order to truly have peace and some sort of equality that they really don't want, and some sort of, like, you know, tension to be healed, things were better in the 90s and 2000s racially when people weren't so politically correct. Political correctness does not heal racial tension. It does the opposite. Being so sensitive about racism and anti-Semitism and using those words and exaggerating about those words while passing laws to say people can't say that doesn't heal racial tension or social tension. It makes it worse. It was better in the 90s and the 2000s when people were way more loose with how they felt, making jokes. Chris Rock used to tell jokes he'd never tell. You know, these people know it was better back then. I'm not saying everything was better, but the tension between the races was healing. And every time it's starting to heal, they exploit us. They exploit us. They exploit us. And BLM, you guys push that on the masses. It's not that people don't know that Black Lives Matter. It's that you're pushing this lopsided activism while ignoring the main causes of Black people dying, whether it's the food industry, the diets, and then, you know, on a lesser scale, the gang violence, which is coming in inter-community. You guys don't want to talk. It's all fake. So, you know, I'm never bowing down to this narrative because I actually care. I'm not a hateful person, and I don't think anybody innocent of any group deserves to die. And I don't think that any of these record label executives or TV people, you do not in any way, shape, or form have the moral high ground over me, over Ye. He's not a perfect person, but, you know, he's starting to speak about things that actually matter. They would much rather him put out an album talking about just killing, drugs, sex of the wedlock, drugs, sex of the wedlock, drug, destroy the family unit, abortion, sex, and drugs. If he put out that album, he'd have everything he ever wanted and more. So what does that tell you about how much these people really care about all of us? They don't. It's so obvious, right? That would have been status quo, and they would have been like, that's fire. You know, we could put that on a stage next to Joe Biden, and you know what I'm saying, you can endorse him like, but the second you say that, I'm just trying to reframe the narrative, because the moral equivalence, I'm not saying you have to agree with everything he says or like him or think that it's perfect, but you know, it's far from the worst thing going on right now. God bless you guys. Have a beautiful day.